Sup? I'm tired and I need part 2. Hello again! Welcome to me talking some more about my Rwby OCs. But before I do that, I wanted to thank everybody who showed interest and support. It means a lot, really. Thank you so much. Now, without further ado, it's time to talk about the next character in Kuro's lineup, and Kai's partner, Aurora Uriel. Aurora is also a character I came up with very early on. In fact, if I'm being honest, she's also the character who's remained the most consistent in design and personality. So let's cover our bases. Aurora is based on the fairy tale character Sleeping Beauty. She's definitely the mom friend of the group, the type to stay up late and plan or work on tuning her weapon, or just worry, good feelings. I've always imagined her as being very sweet and well-intentioned, but her sleeping habits do cause her to constantly nap during class, on the way to missions, what have you. When talking about Rwby OCs, I of course have to address her qualifications for being a Rwby character. By that, I mean the color naming rule. Keeping Sleeping Beauty and the almighty color naming rule in mind, I named her Aurora. Not only does she share her name with the Disney version of Sleeping Beauty, Aurora is also a Latin name meaning dawn. Aurora was the Roman goddess of the sunrise, and you can't think about a sunrise without thinking about the golden, yellowish red color the sky takes on. So much of her design is tied to the elements of a sunrise. Her color palette is informed by the colors. The time of day sunrise represents ties to her insomnia. We've seen a few sunrises. And perhaps the most prominent aspect of a sunrise to feature in her design is the sun. It's her symbol, she has a nice tan, it's tied to her weapon name, and this is a great segue into her semblance. Wait, semblance. So, it's come to my attention that I forgot something crucial in Kai's video. Her semblance. Well, if you're watching now, great. Only the loyal will know. Just for the newcomer's sake, let me summarize what a semblance is. In the world of Rwby, a semblance works in tandem with one's aura, or soul. Put simply, it's, as Nora Valkyrie once said, your own personal superpower. Kai's semblance is called Flash Step. Essentially, it's short-distance teleportation, and the idea is that the spouts of teleportation are called steps. She can, at most, step 5 meters away from her point of origin. Visually, I imagine the steps resembling the warping from Final Fantasy XV, with the blue light and all, but without chucking a weapon or anything. She is able to perform steps in quick succession, a technique I'm calling rapid steps. But this is very exhausting. It's literally throwing your molecules through space using aura. I do have ideas for how this semblance can evolve and grow, so for sure stay tuned for that. This video is about Aurora, right? Like I said before, Aurora is themed around the sun and sunrise. Her semblance is called solar power. Like Nora's semblance, where she can take in electricity for power, Aurora takes in the sun's rays and stores them as extra energy. At capacity, Aurora can utilize the energy to create mini solar flares to incapacitate opponents, kinda like a flash grenade. However, she has to be careful with that technique, as everyone, including her, can potentially be affected by it. But in small quantities, she comes in clutch in dark places. Her eyes also change from green to gold when her semblance is active. Her semblance is of course affected by the weather and time of day, like if it's overcast or nighttime. If she has some sun stored up, it shouldn't be a problem, but there's also a cap on how much energy she can store. Too much of it hurts, like a sunburn. Before we move on to her weapon, I didn't really know where else to talk about her last name, Uriel. The U in Kuro, but here kinda works, cause it has ties to her weapon. Uriel is an archangel in the Christian faith. He is known as the Archangel of Repentance. He's also the angel who stood at the gates of Eden with a flaming sword. Her name also alludes to some background stuff, but I'll touch on that later, because I said I'd talk about weapons now. Aurora's weapon is called Cressida Rising. She has a bit of a Latin thing going on with her name and whatnot, so I designed it to have the silhouette of a gladius. Of course, now it's rubified and exaggerated, but I'm happy with it. This sword has power in its gladius mode and versatility in its twin blade mode. When talking about its gun attributes, it's like a two-barreled weapon separating into two rifles with bayonets, sorta. All in all, while I was designing Cressida Rising, and even now when I imagine Aurora in combat, I just imagine and think about how Cloud Strife fought in Advent Children. Just to give you an idea, I just see her pulling off cool stuff like that. Cressida is also a Greek name, which means gold. Together, Cressida Rising is meant to allude to the sun. I said before that Aurora is a very caring friend. She's devoted to whatever she puts her mind to. Here is where I want to touch on what exactly her deal is. An idea struck me, back in Volume 3 when the topic of religion came up, and throughout watching Rwby, I realized just how fragile something like religion can be in the world of Remnant. What would it be like to have a character whose life is turned upside down in that regard? This is all original stuff, so bear with me. This is gonna get real World of Remnant-y. Aurora was raised to follow the teachings of the Church of Auriel. Auriel is the god of the sun, fire, creation, medicine, and destruction. Aurora had always been favored by the higher-ups of this organization, especially since her semblance is tied directly to the sun, and therefore their god. It is a sacred tradition, a pact if you will, for capable fighters to stand as champions for one's convent. Strength is a valued ideal in the church, and a champion is called upon to defend the church from impending threats, like grim or bandit attacks for convents out in the boonies. Even though she's been groomed for the role of champion, and sponsored for attending Haven Academy by the Church of Auriel, Aurora is kind of an odd egg. You see, if you met her, you'd never know she had those kinds of ties. She's not outspoken about her faith, and she likes it that way. She's not that girl putting Bible quotes in her bio, you know? For her, it's merely an aspect of comfort and faith. She knows she's personally seen the hypocrisy the higher-ups display, and it has nothing to do with her or her faith, and she has no desire to put any of that on anyone. I think she's pretty cool. That's it for her so far. Thanks for sticking around till the end. I really appreciate it, and I wish you the best. Is that the sun?